Hello. Happy Monday, everybody. I'm Lauren Rosen, and I am waiting on Kelly Frankly. Frankly? Wow, words are hard sometimes. Frankie. And we are going to be talking about OCD and disgust today. Let me get her on board. Just as a reminder to everybody, this is not a replacement for therapy. This is for educational purposes only, right, Kelly?
That's right.
Yeah.
This is
So
not therapy.
it's not, but we hope that it's educational and maybe even a little funny. Whoa.
Whoa, easy, easy.
I don't know what's happening. I called you Kelly Frankly, by the way, so sorry
I
about
I
that.
saw that, and
Yeah.
it's been suggested to me by multiple people that I should use that as kind of my thing, is like
Oh,
frankly Frankie
I like it.
for like a podcast, but this is my podcast or a
I'm glad.
blog.
Yeah. No, I can totally see that. Frankly, Frankie. So today, everybody, we're going to be talking about OCD and disgust, and how disgust operates in the realm of OCD. We got some questions that were about kind of disgust in maybe a different way than Kelly and I had intended it. That doesn't mean that we can't necessarily address those. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
So, yeah. And, I think typically when people think of OCD, they think of intrusive thoughts and the what if and the fear associated with it. And the reality is that actually OCD includes a whole nother group that's not necessarily fear related, but disgust related.
yep.
For example, somebody might feel triggered with touching something that is slimy. It could be
Hmm.
raw chicken, let's say.
Ooh, good
And
one.
as someone with contamination fears, right? There's the key word there, fears, would potentially be worried about murdering somebody or killing some, not murder, but accidentally food poisoning, killing someone. Okay.
Yeah.
Someone with disgust, not a fear, just the disgust factor, would
Mm.
say, I can't handle
Ew.
this feeling. Oh, la, la, la.
Yeah.
Gross.
That's a good
Blah.
one. Yeah. No, it's true.
So that's
Can
important to know the why.
It is important to know the why, and it totally informs how we do exposures and what we're supporting people in learning how to tolerate. And I guess one thing that, in reflecting on this, because I knew we were going to be talking about this, I do think that it's in some ways, though, fear of being disgusted in perpetuity, right?
Right, never going away. This is
Yep.
a perpetual feeling, or it might get worse,
Yeah.
or I
Yeah.
won't stop thinking about it.
Right. And if I touch other things with my slimy hands, now the slime's going to be, and then I'll be forever disgusted by
Slimer.
all of these things, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Slimer effect.
The Slimer effect. That's copyright it. Frankly, Frankie, 2021, right there. Bam.
We should watch
Um,
Ghostbusters, by the way, for
ba-ba-da-ba-da.
for a
Mhm,
Halloween
mhm. I want to
friendship
do
situation,
that.
not
Yeah.
purely OCD
I
situation.
like that. That's a good call. I like that a
Okay,
lot.
sorry guys,
Um,
coming back.
so reeling it back in. So, and if anyone has any experience with the disgust element in OCD, I know I posted about this a couple weeks ago, didn't you as well? Or am I making
I
that up?
don't. I have no memory of most of life. I'm
That's
sure.
cool. Um, aw, thank you,
Cool.
Amy.
That means a
Um,
lot.
That does, because you're awesome. Go check out OCD
Very much.
Nashville if you haven't. She's got amazing doodles and she's awesome. So
Great page. Yep.
totally. Um, so
So
yeah, if
yeah,
anyone has any disgust experiences, but so what do you see being the triggers mostly? I know we usually just hop right into obsessions, but isn't the obsession almost always like, what if I feel disgust forever?
100%. Yeah. So trigger. Um, well, I'd say, I mean, I immediately went to the like the darkest one. So let's not do that. We're gonna
Reel
we're
it
gonna
back in,
we're
Frankie.
gonna build up to that guy.
I was going to start with bodily functions.
That's what I was gonna do.
Good. Oh, wait, that was the really dark one?
I think so, because that could include blood, semen, poop, pee. I
Yeah.
went to semen, okay? That's what I was
That's,
thinking
that's
of.
what you went to. You were like right
I
to the
went to that.
semen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking poop.
Perfect. What a combo.
Well, no, and I've worked with people who, interestingly enough, the trigger will bring about thoughts related to doing something with those substances that will bring on the experience of disgust, and then being like,
Hmm.
I don't want to have this thought, make it go away, which is sort of one way that this can show up. So, for instance, like having a thought, if you think about poop and then you think about eating poop, for instance.
Lovely.
You're welcome. Monday morning, just trying to keep it real here.
I'm still thinking about the choking on the mouse.
Oh yeah, I know.
Sorry.
No, don't
Anyways,
don't be sorry. I'm thinking about it years later.
yes, that one. Also, looking just a visual trigger of something, even on an image, right? It doesn't have to be three-dimensional poop. It could just be a picture.
You don't
I
actually have to see poop in order to be triggered. You could just see a picture of poop.
Yes, you totally could. And some
Hmm.
people, I've actually had a few clients. They were younger clients, um, meaning they're under the age of 17, 16.
Hmm.
And they would look at an image and they'd actually get the sensation of disgust on their hand without even touching it.
Oh,
So
interesting.
there's this magical thinking, which you often see in children too, more so. I mean, obviously it's rampant in adults as well. But
Totally, totally.
yeah. So
What about so yeah, there's obviously like all the bodily fluids and like disgust.
textures, any texture that's slimy or
Hmm.
gritty.
Yep. Yep. Which actually, interestingly enough, kind of feeds into ARFID, or avoidant restrictive food intake disorder, for anyone
Mm.
who's, I don't know if anyone out there finds themselves having a particularly sort of picky relationship with food to the point where it's really sort of um, interfering with life, but that does come up, and just this total disgust with, often with fruits and vegetables and stuff like that, that really impairs people. But there's also just gore and horror often will sort of bring about this disgust feeling, like, ugh, like, which, in fairness, it is pretty gross.
Are you
But
talking about like stabbing or what are you talking about? Gore?
I'm talking about stabbing, I'm talking about decapitating, I'm talking about, actually, can I share one that comes
Please.
to mind? Because I actually offered this up to a client because, I'm a good therapist.
Naturally. It's going to be
Naturally,
dark.
it's going to be really dark. So there was that show Ratchet.
I don't know what that
Um,
is, but
Basically a show that's based on like the younger version of Nurse Ratchet, who's the
oh yeah.
the psychiatrist in one, or the nurse in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And basically, there's a scene in it where somebody amputates his own arm with a
Oh my.
chainsaw.
Oh my. Ooh.
Hmm. Yeah, but that's the thing, right? Like, it's not that for the person that I'm thinking of, that I assign this to, right?
You
Like,
told them to amputate their arm with a chainsaw.
well, of course.
Okay, good.
No, I
Good.
told them to
Well done.
watch the scene.
I know, I just wanted clarification
Yeah,
on that
I think
for
that
the
that's a really good
population.
clarifying point. Oh
Okay.
my gosh. Um, but I think that the idea there wasn't that this person wasn't afraid that they were going to do that to somebody else or even do that to themselves. They just didn't want to have the feeling of disgust, right? That was
Right.
associated with the blood and the gore, which in theory is not a problem. But if you're having these thoughts all the time and you're sort of trying to push away the thoughts, then we do want to lean in. Then we want to be like, okay, well, we're going to have the thoughts. Might as well just go for it,
Yeah, absolutely.
right? Bring those puppies on.
Bring on the disgust.
Yep, bring it on. Because like any, like, right, like anxiety, it's okay to feel all the feelings.
Right. I'm
Yeah.
trying to think of another disgust trigger. So we
Mm,
have bodily fluids,
check.
we have certain textures,
Hmm.
we
Which can
have,
include eating and or touching.
yep.
Yep. We've got
Um,
gore. We've got what else is just oh yeah, animals. Maybe that we can sort of play into the phobias and
yeah.
maybe even like insects, right? Like the sort of
Well,
insects.
I can handle, I actually love insects. In fact,
Ah.
currently, I'm not going to go into it. I used to bring
Do you have an
insects
insect?
into my aunt's house
Oh.
all the time. Like I'd bring them in my pockets, and she's like, to this day, she won't let me live it down. I still do it, by the way. We have an insect cage which we observe and then release.
Of
But
course.
spiders is that's my line,
Yeah, spiders.
and it's a
Is it a
disgust.
fear? Okay, no, it's a disgust.
Blah,
Yeah.
blah,
Well,
ee.
that's the thing.
It's
So
on me.
arachnophobia, right, which is what you're talking about, the fear of spiders. Um,
It might be
it is
both.
often that disgust thing. In fact, can I share something with you that's probably going to gross you out?
Yeah.
Okay. One of the exposures, because I had someone who I worked with who was afraid, who had arachnophobia, but would have these very graphic images of biting into something and there being a spider in there.
Yum.
Yeah, I told you. So, um, so yeah, so we did imaginals around that, around the like the biting in and hearing the crunch and feeling the disgust and all of that. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, right.
That's so solid.
Solid as a rock. I did. Wait, hold on. Amy
You know
said
what's
something
really exciting
about
though?
what? No, tell me. Tell me what's exciting.
Well,
And then,
the best phobia I've ever done is with dogs. So that's about as dark as it's gone for me for phobias.
yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just saying
Well,
mine's really PG, which is
watch out,
interesting.
world. I mean, I'm sure you'll see it because you see all
Yeah.
sorts of things,
Yeah.
sort of.
I don't, we'll see, I would bypass spiders because I haven't worked on it well enough myself.
That seems fair. Yeah. Well,
I try to get up on them and look at them.
yeah,
I see you. Get a little closer.
yeah, 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 and feel that disgust. Just feel the hell out of it.
Sorry, you were saying though. Sorry.
Oh no, just as another category, Amy was saying death, decay, and rot is a good one for
Mm-hmm.
the more disgust focused
Mm-hmm.
obsessions. Yeah, yeah, I would agree
Totally.
with that. Yeah, like maggots
Yeah,
also
it's like
in
if you
there.
stick your finger in like a rotten piece of an apple and it's on
Mm,
your finger, if you think about it like that, it's like that's what the disgust factor is we're talking about. But it
yeah,
doesn't necessarily need to be a rotten apple.
no, it could be anything.
It could be like Play-Doh, it could be chalk, it could be a lot of stuff that's just
Yeah,
really benign.
totally, absolutely. So, exposures, do we want to jump in?
Yeah,
Compulsion
let's
is
do it.
mostly like trying to suppress the feeling, I would say,
Yeah, and
or avoid
avoid,
the, yeah, yeah,
right? Avoid it.
yeah.
So we're going through compulsions or exposures.
I know I realized that I was about to leap over compulsion, so I thought I'd rein us back
Okay.
in. My bad.
I don't know if there's any other, washing. Um,
Yes, that's a good one.
yeah, washing, that's
Washing.
where contamination, OCD, and disgust often gets. Actually, you can see both, but together, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of people get confused with hand washing and the disgust is like, oh, I have to be clean. Well,
Mm-hmm.
but not necessarily, right? It could just be a feeling of just this that feeling.
Right, that it has nothing to do with potentially contracting a disease, for
Yes,
example. Yeah, you're
right.
right on about that. Self five for you. Thank you.
Um,
So yeah,
showering. Yeah.
showering. No, you're so right on about the the washing compulsions are big. And then I don't see reassurance necessarily playing into this one very much. I don't know if you do, but
No. Well, actually, I take that back. I have a client who that's like their master compulsion is reassurance. But
Hmm.
they have a crossover of contamination and disgust.
I see. So they're looking for reassurance about whether or not they're going to
Whether or
have
not
some.
it's something that they fear it is, right? Like if it's poop, if it's
Hmm.
animal poop or human poop, they might say, well, what do you think this is? Because they don't want to touch it
Oh,
for fear,
yeah.
right? That it'll be yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know.
That's a good one.
I know.
Yeah,
Um,
lots of thought stopping though. Like lots of like, I don't want to think that. Make it go away. Go away. Or mental compulsions like neutralizing, right? Or um, sort of trying to redo the thing in their mind to try to like exit out.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exit out.
Exit out. No, doesn't work. Doesn't work. Uh,
Um, I think
yeah.
that's probably most of them.
Yep. So because avoidance plays in so prominently here, I find that most of the exposure work just has to do with straight up going after the things that you've been trying to avoid.
Yeah,
Just
disgust is
like,
one of those things where you have to just pull the band-aid here
yeah,
because it's a feeling
yeah,
that's like a physical, like sensation. Sorry.
yeah, yeah. No, it is for
We
sure.
can think about having the thought on us. We can look at pictures of having that sensation on us. We can look at the trigger. We
Hmm.
can listen to it, whatever it is. And at the end of the day, you're going to have to touch it. And maybe if it's your fingernail and then your whole finger and then your hand, but the idea is to build up.
Right. To full on exposure. Although I will say, and this is tricky because I think that before COVID, we would sort of respond to this in a different way, but it's not like, well, first of all, we're never going to ask you to like touch poop, right? Like that's not
No.
that's not the plan. But,
Or
I
cut an arm
remember
off with a
no,
hacksaw.
no, 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 don't do that. It's a bad
Mm-mm.
plan. Um, and I think that so it's with some of the more physical stuff like the and the bodily fluids and all of that. It used to be that people would eat sandwiches off of toilet seats as exposure, right? I remember, I think that's a Grayson one, right?
Yeah, I think UCLA does the Skittles on the toilet.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, I don't think we've ever done that. I don't see that being functional.
No, I don't
But
either. No,
you
but
the idea there is if you go to the top level, then everything else is easy breezy.
yep, yep. Um, but I think just knowing that we're still in the midst of this global pandemic, right? Like we've got to be mindful of what the CDC is advocating for and all of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Usually with disgust, though, it's maybe a little different than contamination, unless there's a crossover stuff, right?
Right. And that's what I'm saying is like if there's something that you're maybe coming into contact with that is both gross and potentially
Germs
problematic, like I obviously feces is a big one here.
or a public restroom touching the door handle,
Mhm.
right? Where
Yeah.
normally we would be like, okay, you can touch the door handle and then you can eat pretzels.
Right.
Whereas now we might say, maybe
Yeah.
don't wash
Yeah.
or
Maybe
don't eat
maybe wash
pretzels.
the once. Yeah.
Right,
Before you
right.
eat the pretzels. And yeah, I mean, just like anything, there's some limited amount of behaviors that turn compulsive that is wise,
Yeah, right.
right? Like problem solving is great. Rumination, not so much.
Mm-hmm.
Same idea. By the way, somebody asked about mental disgust, nothing that's actually physical. I guess I'm
That
not,
maybe
is it the
disgust of a scary thought or
that
a taboo thought.
yeah, which is maybe we should talk about that briefly because that did come up, right? And the fear that you're not disgusted by something. Like, why am I not disgusted that I had a thought of harming, which is a little bit different than disgust being the primary
Yeah, it's very
feeling with
different, but
OCD. But like, why didn't I have disgust when I, had a thought pop into my head about killing my family? What does that mean about me? What if that means I really want to do
yeah.
that? Yeah. Hmm. Okay. Yeah, I can see that having intrusive images of pretty much anything, and we were
Hmm.
talking earlier about the gore stuff with that, right? The um, just being icked out by like, oh, why am I thinking? Why am I having that thought? I don't want to have that thought. Um, let's see.
Um, yeah, and the idea here is just to have full acceptance. We don't want to, turn that into a compulsion where you're compulsively trying to bring up intrusive images to check for disgust either, or just to
Right.
check and for whatever what if thought is related to it.
Right. That's the thing is it's like with the backdoor spike where you no longer feel anxious and then you feel anxious that you no longer feel anxious. Sometimes people no longer feel disgust and then feel anxiety about the fact that they no longer feel disgust.
Right, like disgust is some type of safeguard.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah,
like, well, I don't want to do that exposure because then it won't bother me, and it needs to bother me because then it keeps me from doing that thing.
right. Good times.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
going back to the discussed exposures, though,
Yes.
um, because they're going to look very different than the ones we were just talking about.
Hmm. Like the not the touching necessarily, but you mean
Well,
the
I'm
mental
saying,
disgust?
yeah, the mental disgust, because we're going to
Hmm.
actually try to eliminate, well, not eliminate, but we're going to try to bring, it's just a different approach because we're saying, well, we want you to do an exposure. You can not have something like, okay, let me rewind. Hold on. The
Rewind.
disgust content that we started this topic on, we are trying to bring on disgust, right? Whereas
Hmm.
the other ones, it's more of like, well, we're going to just stay tuned to values and say, we're going to do this exposure and disgust might not be there,
Hmm. Yeah. Yep.
right?
Yep.
If the obsession
Absolutely.
is, I don't have, like they're wanting the disgust. So we're saying,
Right.
we're going to actually habituate to it to the point of like, maybe you don't.
Right.
Maybe you're a
That's the
bad
thing is that you have to
person.
accept uncertainty about because the fear related to disgust becomes another obsession, right? That's
Right.
where the sort of like the
Yeah.
divergence happens.
That's
This
why I
is
want to
more
make
about
sure we're really clear on
yeah.
how the
Yep.
exposures work because they're different.
Yeah, so just to sort of highlight for anyone who's just joining us, or just to recap so far, it's one is that you have an intrusive thought or image or experience that leads to the feeling of disgust, which then you try to get rid of through compulsions like hand washing or thought suppression or whatever. And then there's this other scenario where you have intrusive thoughts and you feel protected by the fact that your initial experience is disgust. And if you don't feel disgust, then you feel anxious about why don't I feel disgust? What if that means I like my thought?
Right. Like, for example, in pedophilia type OCD, that's a really common reaction
Yep.
when you're doing exposures is people will almost get gaggy around the exposure. Is that's
Yeah.
the disgust. And then as they've progressed in treatment, that starts to go down and they're like, why isn't that any there anymore? What does that mean?
Right. And the
Do I
answer is
really? We don't know.
we don't know. We're not figuring that out.
Yeah, I don't know.
If you've decided that the facts of the circumstance it doesn't make sense to figure out whether or not you're a pedophile, then we're not going to figure it out.
Hmm.
Even if the disgust goes away, we're just going to be like, which easier said than done. But
Right.
still.
So going back to the first example that you were saying of
Yes.
disgust, right? Trying to get rid of the sensation of disgust, like textures and bodily functions or rotting, things like that. Another way to do this is using a contamination towel right? If you're not willing to touch something directly, sometimes using a towel to touch it and then touch your body is one step. A lot of people actually have the opposite reaction where it's much more intense for them.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it depends though. Everyone's different. So
It is. Yeah. That's such a good point. I love the contamination towel.
I
That's
often
good.
find that women in particular, the disgust factor, like if they put it in their hair, it's
Ooh.
more contaminated, or on
Mm-hmm.
their bed. Those are
Mm.
like two common ones I've seen.
Yeah. The bed
There's,
is usually a safe space, so contaminating that area with something that's disgusting is going, yeah, that's so
mhm,
true. That's so true. Um,
yeah.
so in addition to the exposures for the sort of the physical feeling of disgust by touching something, we've got the within that subtype, the sort of the thoughts that pop in that cause disgust that you want to get rid of, like the gore stuff that we were talking about earlier.
Mhm.
And I think that the aim there is to actually bring on the thoughts on purpose, right? Set reminders for yourself to think about these things. Bring on the images, and then you don't like need to like stare at them ongoing. It's bring on the image, notice any feelings that are evoked, and then continue on about your merry life. Um, yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
it.
that's it.
So,
Um, Somebody asked if we would make this video available, and absolutely we will. It'll be on both of our Instagram TV pages as well as on our YouTube page, which, yeah, you can check it out on any of those situations.
yes.
Hmm.
And sorry if we are not answering your questions. We are trying to stay on topic for purposes of people to go back and watch content that's very specific that they're looking for.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of somebody just asked about apps that you can bring on the
Oh,
exposures, most people have phones with reminders. I love the basic. I have an iPhone, so love the basic reminder app. Like, don't forget about the image of the poop and eating it.
mm-hmm.
Woo! Don't forget about it, and don't forget to feel gross. There you go. There it
Yeah.
is.
It could
So
be
something
just
even
like the
that.
little emoji because you can change the
Yeah,
name of your alarm. It
yeah,
can be like a poop emoji or
that's so
slime
good.
emoji.
And we're going to talk about technological exposures. One of my personal favorites is making backdrops on phones
Mm-hmm.
and computers and all of that, since we see them so often, images that are going to bring about disgust or whatever.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
also recording imaginals. There's a lot of apps
Hmm.
you can get that record, or voice memos can do it too, but which
Yeah.
is an Apple app.
Yep.
So,
We just actually, I don't know how she did this, but we heard about a friend and colleague, Mary Spinagle, using the auto tune
oh, right.
with imaginals, which I think is just inspired,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, so you can get a good dance going to your most disgusting thoughts.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
what is it about the emoji of poop? Okay, so we were talking about poop being the disgust factor for some people.
Hmm.
And so we're talking about alarms on our phone. So if you have an alarm set at 9 a.m., 12 p.m., and 6 p.m. that go off
Hmm.
every day at the same time, you can actually change the name of the alarm to anything
Hmm.
you want, including it could be an emoji of any sort. It could be like a knife if you wanted. It could be a
Yeah.
smiley face if you're trying to be incognito, but it's
Yeah.
just some type of visual cue that's saying, hey, exposure time.
Yep.
Let's
Remember,
do this. Don't forget. You're
don't forget.
disgusted.
Right.
Yeah.
Because so much of it is like, I don't want to be having these thoughts. These thoughts are ruining my life. It's like, or we could just be like, yeah, bring them on. I want to have all
Yeah.
of the thoughts. I'm going to have them as much as possible. I'm going to bring the thoughts with me on all of my adventures in the world and just
The
hanging
end.
out. The end. Yeah.
Okay. So we do have to wrap up.
Yeah. Are we at our time?
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, gang. Really
Yes.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
And we'll be back next week with another OCD topic. If you have any that you'd like to see addressed on here, go ahead and message us, and we'll definitely keep it in the queue, as it were. And thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you, friend.
All right, thank you,
Have a
friend.
great day off.
Thank you.
All
You
right.
have a great day. Okay, happy Labor
Bye.
Day. Goodbye.
Bye.